fighter meetings, and the ceiling was like vibrating because of DC like, asking questions. And I sit there thinking, how does this little English guy with a small voice, who's going to be commentating next to that behemoth of a man?
Calf Kick Sports Podcast.
So hey guys, welcome to another episode of Calf Kick Sports. I'm Ash, joined as ever by Tim, and today we have a special guest on the show. He is one of the voices of the UFC, but he doesn't just do that. He's a TV presenter, an event host, basically just an all-round workhorse. Mr. John Gooden, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for the introduction. I barely hear myself called those things these days in the pandemic, but it's nice to see I've got traces of it still in my past.
How's the lateral disc tear going? Is that healing up okay?
We turned a corner on Monday, but I tried to do some swimming yesterday and was barely walking last night. Was at the gym earlier just to see the team and put a little complex machine on it, I think it's called, and it did some madness, made me feel like I was getting electrocuted. Yeah, day by day. But I've been through this kind of stuff before, so you just got to keep smiling through it and doing what you can.
And it's rough. We're all entering the cage with bumps and bruises and injuries. Now, you were doing some cage work through the pandemic as well, and you've called some fights that had some of the most electric crowds in history, and then you've called fights with no crowds. How do you keep up the energy when there's no audience there? Yeah,
it's a little bit odd, but I guess without sounding like a dick, you're meant to be a professional, right? So it's your job. So bring that. And I think because I've been around the big crowd, so I understand, or there's like a muscle memory around how hard I would go with certain things, my cadence, the levels. So we're there to do a job. And let's be honest, as fight fans, we genuinely get excited by these things. So you naturally react the way that you do, whether you're in your front room, your back room, whichever room you tend to watch fights from, and if you're there in a crowd. So it's not as difficult as one may think, but it is a bit weird and eerie when you kind of hear your words come back around the room. I think it was worse with DC, because DC's voice is so powerful. It's like no word of a lie. We were in a meeting, fighter meetings, and the ceiling was like vibrating because of DC asking questions. And I sit there thinking, how does this little English guy with a small voice, who's going to be commentating next to that behemoth of a man, how am I supposed to compete? So yes, it's funny when I could hear through one microphone and then through one receiver, like a slight difference because of DC's voice being so powerful, being picked up on everyone's microphones.
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Actually, going on that, how important is the team during a time like this, when you don't have the crowd? At least you could feed off the energy of each other, right?
Yeah, and these guys are legends in the game. Those that are sat there doing commentary, they're there for a reason. They're champions, or those that are just wicked broadcasters and have trodden every possible aspect of the fight game. So it's great for someone like me to be able to have those folk that are next to me, because they've been there, done it, experienced it, or not been far from experiencing it, and they have a pretty educated take. So I can throw anything their way and get a different response. Like DC's different to Dan, different to Paul, different to Bisping. And it's wonderful for me to be able to open the door for you guys, because that's what I'm there to do, right? I'm there to kind of unlock things and be the conduit to ask certain questions that elicit different responses and educate in a certain way and entertain. So it's a blast being side by side with these guys.
It looks like a lot of fun as well. It seems like you have one of the best jobs in the world. Have you ever struggled? So. I agree. Have you ever struggled to kind of get them? Because sometimes you work with people who are so excited into the sport, like a Daniel Cormier and a Dan Hardy. Have you ever struggled to kind of okay, back on track, guys, back on track. Let's stop, chit chat and let's get to what's going on. Any memories like that?
That's a question for our producers, because there have been a few times where we're having fun, and I think everyone wants you to have fun. I think that you can. I'm not saying that it has when I've been in the broadcast booth, but I think you can sometimes go a little bit too far. And when you're in it, and when you've got two alpha males that are looking to have the last word, then it takes someone of a higher pay grade than me to tell people to settle down. So our producers sometimes, if we're, and this isn't just if we're a bit excitable, but just generally speaking, they might just, because they have a slightly step back view from things, they say, right, now is a good time to switch it, change, like talk about the other corner, whatever it might be. It doesn't happen often, but I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, that the producers have told me to move it along or change tact or something like that, over the years. It's a long time on the mic to get it right every time.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you're working a lot of hours, man, on the broadcast. But I mean, changing gears a little bit, let's go back to 2014 when you first started. How was it in your first ever gig at the UFC? Was it very nerve-wracking, your first commentary? Your first commentating job?
Yeah, it really was. I look back at that now, and I was making a lot of changes in my life generally. Like I'd switched up my diet completely, and I wasn't managing it very well. So I was super skinny. I was stressed. Basically, I cut meat out. So I didn't really know how I was going to fuel myself because I was like a meat and 2 veg guy before. So that with the new job, but I was also managing the old job, and that was still pretty serious. So there was it was nervous energy, good energy, but I'm also one of those guys where I do care. It's just in my nature. I care about my performance. I care about what the MMA community thinks about the work that I'm doing. And so I take things to heart, and I certainly overthought things back then way more than what I do now, because you sort of grow into the role. But there was Cage Warriors was as good a proving ground as you're going to get, but it's still, from a broadcast perspective, a long way off what the UFC is. And so jumping up, it was a massive leap, and you just have to see how you do with it, and then hope the fans enjoy the work that you're doing. I think sitting alongside someone like Dan Hardy, or not like Dan, but with Dan Hardy, who was, a legend over here in the UK and had achieved many great things, because it sounded like he respected me. We went into that as a strong partnership, and that definitely helped. So yes, I lost a lot of weight when I was in that first year with the UFC, for sure. But, because I care so much, it's the dream job. As you guys said, it literally was the dream job. I didn't look to become a sports presenter or sports commentator. I wanted to become the UFC commentator, and I got that job. And that still blows my mind. So when I'm not doing it now, I get kind of a little bit, all right, like, is my dream slipping away? And I've felt like that in the last 2-3 years. I genuinely have felt like that. But March 19th, I get to live it again.
Nice. Did you ever have to pinch yourself going, man, I can't believe I'm still...
And it's good to do that, right? It's good to show gratitude and to keep your feet on the ground. I'm not really someone that has an overinflated opinion, I don't think. I'll maybe ask my wife and those close to me, but like, I still feel like I'm fighting for my job every day, really. I'm trying to add value to the UFC and to UK MMA and MMA in general every day. I really am. But you never know what someone's opinion is of you in a decision-making capacity, and whether your face just doesn't fit one day. So I just got to keep doing what we're doing, enjoy it whilst it's there, pinch yourself as much as you can, but at the same time, don't be overwhelmed by the occasion, because you are there to do a job. And I'm a pro now. There's only a few other people that have done this as much as I have in the world. So yeah, just do the work and deliver the best broadcast possible.
Yeah, I absolutely love to hear it. And it's nice when we speak to people who work in the sport and they're so passionate about the sport. And I think your passion has really shown, because you were in the sport kind of before it was cute, before it was really popular. You were practicing, you were at Cage Warriors events. And then even now during the pandemic, I was trying to find something of like, how do I edit this in Skype for a video? And then John Gooden was the answer. I was like, man, this guy's nonstop. Everywhere I look, it's John Gooden.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it feels like I need to do a lot more on that side of things. But yeah, I like to help people out in whatever way it can. I've put videos out of how to fix dishwasher faults. You know, I've been genuinely, I've been thinking about doing some, because my former life was as an electrician. And there's just a few things that I'm going to be doing soon. And I'm like, oh, I might just do a video around that and show people why it's important to do X, Y, and Z, just because, you know, I film shit and I can put it up on my channel. If someone wants to, if it helps someone out, then great. But it's probably not the best use of my time, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, I'm a man of many, we're all people with different layers, right? So Gary Vaynerchuk is someone who I didn't like in the beginning, probably because I needed to listen to him and I have a problem with authority sometimes. But now I've embraced that and gotten past that. He's the kind of guy that says, look, if it floats your boat, then just put it out there. Like, just get it out there and don't care about stuff. Just get in the what's the word? In the rhythm of creating stuff and putting things out, regardless of what it might be. And I think there should be a strategy, but there's definitely something about habits and creating those habits. So yeah, I try. It's hard, but I try to do that kind of thing.
Nice. So obviously, John, you know, I hear you do train. I'm not sure. You know, Faisal Malik.
I do. Yeah.
So we had him on last week, and he mentioned, yeah, man, John's such a nice guy, man.
Oh, that's very kind of him.
Yeah, he actually trains as well. How important is it to train as an analyst in something, whether it be boxing or jiu-jitsu or any kind of martial art? Does it help yourself, you know, tremendously?
Yeah, well, I take confidence from it for sure. I don't know any different. And I mean, people look at me and they probably don't think that I'm a fighter. I'm probably more of a bite down on the mouthpiece and get through it and show heart type of person than I am a technical or decent athlete. You know, I'm a bit stupid in that sense, and that's how I've gotten through it. But I'm getting old now, and the injuries are stacking up. But yeah, I was a competitive swimmer from when I was 5 years old, and did pretty good at that. But then martial arts grabbed a hold when I was 7. You know, I was competing nationally in judo. Then I switched over to karate. My uncle is now, I think, like a 4th Dan in Shotokan karate. I was doing karate with him when he first started for a few years. Then I changed out and I joined like the boxing ranks. I did the novice ABA stuff for a little bit whilst I was at uni. Then I went back to playing football because none of my friends were into combat sports. So I did all of this was like always by myself, and it's a little bit difficult to maintain. But yeah, I went and did football, but I was just drawn back to it. And then the rise of the UFC and things of that nature led me to Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think what that gives me is a sense of what it takes. And I might not have done much or anything in the fight game, but I've been next to people that really have. I've grown up in mixed martial arts in the UK when it's very misunderstood, that it needed a lot of help from everyone in all sorts of different ways, PR, health and safety, rules and regulation. Like, so many people can lend their efforts for the betterment of the sport, and did. And although I was around in, like, when did I start? Like 2006, 2007, there are obviously many people that went before me that put the groundwork in. There's going to be so many people that, like Lee Hasdell and Mark Goddard was there, and, you know, Ian Freeman, Butlins, and, you know, there's just so many. I mean, I'm missing so many off. It's probably wrong for me to start, but like Rosie Sexton was really key to my understanding and helping give me confidence. And that's the thing about our sport. I'm going off on a tangent here, but if you were showing willing and you were putting in hard work, because we are a strong community, there are other people that were willing to pull you up. And if you prove to them that you could offer something and that you were genuine, they're going to help you out. Like Mark Goddard had helped me out, Rosie helped me out, Graham Boylan helped me out, and there have been many others. So I cling to that. I'm grateful for it. And now I expect that from other people in the sport as well, because it deserves it. You know, we want people that are gonna really help us out. So yeah, I think being around the grassroots, it teaches you things, you feel certain things, you've seen certain things. And no disrespect to anyone else who now tries to sit in that chair, but you just haven't done what I've done. You haven't been on shows, 20 fight cards, amateurs before YouTube and Facebook was around, that you could even check out, you know, what they did. I'm finding things out as people are wrapping their hands. So now when it comes to calling fights in London, UFC London, it's a doddle. Like I could just type in someone's name and I get X amount of articles. You know, that wasn't how things were when I was coming up. So it's, yeah, I'm grateful for the challenges early on, and it makes my job and my approach a bit different from everyone else's.
And the passion and care clearly shows. You're incredibly knowledgeable when you're on the mic. See, the thing is, we end up getting talking about like technical stuff and broadcast stuff because that's kind of like where we all really relate a lot. But I wanted to ask you, when it comes to MMA in the UK, as you were mentioning, UFC 38 was the first one in the UK, and it probably hurt MMA UK more than anything else did. UFC 70, it came back, and that was the big one with Gabriel Gonzaga and Mirko Krokop. Where were you for UFC 70? Because that was a good one.
I really don't know. Like, I'm going to be really honest with you now. Like, I have a terrible memory. So I have to, that makes the only challenge that has is I have to study every time. Some people watch a fight and it's locked in forever. I don't know what it is. Sadly, that isn't the case for me. I'm working on it. I've tried lots of different techniques. I'm eating all the supplements. But for me, it doesn't work like that. So it's like when people say, what's your favorite fights? Oh, I have to go through and remember, which ones have I done? You know, it's sort of, was it, I'm sure I've seen a Masvidal fight. Was I there when he knocked it? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, that wasn't you on the mic, John. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Well, I remember it like it was me. So these things blend. So I'm terrible with numbered events, the years when things happen. I just, if I go back and watch it, I can probably give a better example, but I just don't know.
Fair enough. I was gonna say, like, there's no way, man, because there was actually one of our questions here. How good is your memory? Because you seem to just rattle off things like just so well. Do you just have a memory in front of you or something?
Sometimes it comes to me.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people talk about the preparation, and like I'll stand by no one prepares like me. Like I'm sorry, no one prepares like I do, because I have more time. The other guys that are doing this, if it's not the UFC, then they've probably got other jobs. I'm out in the field. I've been at Tom Aspinall's camp 3 times since December. I've been with Paddy The Baddy. I've seen Mike Grundy working his ass off. I've been to Jack Shaw's. Like I've seen Muhammad Mukayev in camp this time around. Like I'm there. Like I'm actually in the camp. I'm taking notes. I'm watching it. And then when it comes to actually preparing for the events as well, like I've got a database of thousands of notes. I've got hundreds of books dating back. I write, whenever I watch a UFC event, I write notes on every single fight, like what happened, what I liked about it. And I've got it all together. I've got a ridiculous database, and I try and condense that down into notes that I take into fight week. And I obviously refresh what I do with my notes and the fights, the more recent fights or standout fights. There's little tricks that I will use to try and get that. And then recall. There are now methodologies that I use for remembering certain things to get better at it. Like I used a system of testing myself before the McGregor-Poirier fights, where I was trying to commit to memory McGregor's timeline. And I was working backstage, and it actually worked. So I'd been testing myself on the lead up to the event, sitting down and saying, okay, right. So in 2014, he fought then he did that fight, then he did that fight, then he did that fight. This is where we led to. And by the time I got to fight day, we had to fill backstage. I was outside waiting for his car to arrive, and they went live to me and his car wasn't there. And I'm like, well, let's see if this worked then. So McGregor signed in 2013. You know, he had this fight, then 2014, he had this fight. Then we had like the Brandau thing, then blah, 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 blah. And I was able to walk all the way through it. And I'm like, that's how you do it. You have to keep on testing yourself. So yeah, I just have to work a little bit harder at things. But yeah, that's as I say, you know, I live for the prep. I'm a bit of a geek like that, and I'll go into that London fight card knowing what color socks these guys like wearing on a Monday and a Tuesday.
Speaking of, we are back. The UFC is finally coming back. UFC March 19th here at the O2 Arena. I am excited for this one. You've been covering all the guys. You did a big show with Paddy recently. I want to talk Tom Aspinall. I want to talk, is Dan Hooker going to make it? So let's jump right into it. Paddy the Baddy. How's this prep coming along? And why does he argue with everybody on Twitter?
Well, his prep seems to be coming along really well. He seems to feel like he's in the best place he's ever been, physically and mentally. You know, things are obviously on the up. Like, this has been a wild 6 months for him, and he's just riding this wave. And he's not the kind of guy that lets any of that, the BS, get to him. He gets riled up, and that's why you see him biting at people. But that's because he's comfortable in his own skin, and he doesn't give an F what other people think of him. So he will say his piece. And that's quite cathartic, I guess. If you're not wearing things heavy, like I said earlier, you know, when you worry about what people are thinking all the time and you overthink that, then that actually then brings you down. It mutes you a little bit. Whereas Paddy's like, I got a problem with that. I'm going to tell you about it. I don't really care about your response because I got to come back again. I mean, I don't know the guy intimately, but this is from afar. This is how I see it. So that just means that I think he's just a little bit lighter. So that's why we see him going from that to then bouncing around and telling jokes within the same paragraph. You know, he has an infectious energy. I think he's actually very, very bright. I think he's got sharp wit about him. I like his approach. I think nothing's forced. It's just lucky. It's natural for him that he can combine being a very magnetic personality, but also obviously a legitimate badass when it comes to fighting. Pairing that together, the timing, being from Liverpool, the UK, smaller market than the US. We need big stars, of course, we always do, but now's a good time. He's riding all of these things. Liverpool FC are doing pretty well at the moment, you know, and there's a decent parlay here that is just coming to the fore, and Paddy's just loving every second of it.
Do you feel like, you know, obviously if he strings wins together, I mean, you know, that's obviously important, but do you see more of a shorter kind of route to the title? You know, as we all know, you know, popularity, it does give you not an easier route to the title, but, you know, you have less fights to getting into that title fight because numbers is what, you know, is what brings everything in.
There are, I mean, respectfully, I think that could be oversimplifying it. I think there's things like if you're super active, like if you're fighting once or twice a year, but you're a really, really big star on the up, not a champion, then I still think you're going to struggle. If you're fighting 3 times a year or putting your hand up all the time, like Conor did, and taking on all comers, then you're just in the minds of the matchmakers, and then those opportunities end up presenting themselves. So that kind of works for you. It doesn't work for you when you're in the 155 weight division. You've got to be a real outlier because it's just so deep, and there's so many talented athletes and entertaining personalities as well. I think it sometimes helps if you are from a smaller market. And let's be honest, like the UK market is smaller than the US market, maybe smaller than the Brazil market. So when the UFC goes on the road like it does, and they need people to then, you know, really sell that event locally, then you can get those spots. Then you end up in a co-main or a main event. You get more eyeballs. Then the fans want to see you again. Then you get an opportunity on the mic. You call someone out big. And, you know, these things just perpetuate. It's a cauldron of ingredients. But I think also you've got to be careful, especially at 155 pounds. I mean, every division, but particularly 155 pounds, about going too fast. You know, Paddy's had a lot of fights, so I think he'd be okay. He's got a lot of experience. But then if you've only had like 8 fights, and then you were in that 155 pound oven, then, you know, do you really want to go that fast? Because all of a sudden you're going to be fighting guys that have got 20 professional contests, and they just got tricks and they can use mental warfare like you haven't seen before, and they can put doubt in your mind because you've just not gone through what they've gone through. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, but he's got a bright future, and good luck to the kid.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, it's exciting to see. He's a bright prospect. But Tom Aspinall, people have been calling for years that this guy, looking at how good he is in the cage, people are saying like he's going to be champion in 2022. Does he earn a title shot? Because he's been quite quiet about it, saying like, I think I actually want to take my time to the title.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want a title shot in 2022. Do you think he gets a title shot, and do you see him as a future champion? Because he's a super talent. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think he's a super talent, and I've been shouting that as soon as we saw him in the UFC, and I actually, like, you can go on my YouTube and see this. Like, I predicted that he and Cyril Gane would potentially headline the first UFC in France. I thought that would be a really cool thing. I'm not sure that will happen now, but I do think that they will meet down the line. You're sort of running out of people. If you get past someone like Alexander Volkov, number next to his name, then you're running out of people on it to keep away from the title. I don't think the title comes in 2022 for him. I think 2023 could be possible if he gets the right results, but it's not outside the realms of possibility. That John Jones hanging over the division, the Francis Ngannou situation right now slows things up as well, right? So then that, whether that means that there'll be like an interim title while things, I don't know, again, above my pay grade, but that certainly does muddy the waters. But Tom, with a win over Volkov's fought a lot of those big guys. Like, who does he go through next? The only other guy, Tuivasa coming up at a faster pace. So, then you're looking at a Cyril Gane, a Derek Lewis. Who else? Yeah, he's not going to fight Stipe. Stipe is for me, Stipe, the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time right now. It's up for grabs, but he's the guy that holds that for me. There's a few there, and that's a lot of fights he's got to get through in 2022. But, Tom, he's in no hurry to do this, by the way. So he wouldn't be angry, I don't think, by me even saying that. He wants to get some minutes in the octagon so that he feels more prepared for when he's facing these giants. And Curtis Blade, sorry, with his style, he's a massive problem for everyone. But I see Tom favoring like a fight with someone like that to test his skills, and he's still young enough. He's in his 20s. If it doesn't go his way, another couple of wins and he's right back, circling back round.
Absolutely. But yeah, changing gears, I wanted to talk about Arnold Allen. I feel like this kid is just so underappreciated in the UFC. He's finally got, quite a big fight against Dan Hooker. How do you think Dan Hooker would do at 145? I know he made it before, but he's a big boy, man. How's he going to make 145? I mean, he has made 145 as a test cut. How do you think he'll perform? Yeah,
I'm not sure. Well, I will just say, like, I know the feeling with Arnold Allen, like underappreciated, I'd say, with UFC fans, because I know that the UFC have offered him some very like big name fights, but he's just not been able to answer the call because of his injury problems. So they definitely know how good he is, and he's been offered some really cool opportunities, which I think's been very difficult for him, to not be able to meet those appointments. But Dan Hooker, back to your question. It's a really big question that I'm asking myself as well, because your 145 career wasn't great, and that's why you went up to 155, and then you killed it. He's an incredible athlete. I think that Dan Hooker's one of the better athletes to listen to, who breaks down the fight game. He speaks so well. He's got a super intelligent coach. He's got an elite level gym and training partners. So that the conversations that go on there are just of the highest level, and their approach to mixed martial arts. And that's been a development since his 145 days, of course. So there's been a lot of changes, but now it's, can he apply all of those down at another weight class? Because he does have a bigger frame, and he would have needed to fill out to compete with the likes of Dustin Poirier. He's a thick dude, so I don't know, but did he ever have an eye on going, oh, if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to keep my weight within a certain parameter so that I can make the jump back down. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. A lot of these fighters are kind of 100% in, like, so we'll see. We'll see. He's definitely earned a lot of experience and has developed his game at 155 pounds, which he'll be able to bring to 145. But he obviously thinks he's bringing advantages. We just got to see whether he can actually execute them, in a big fight. It's not a warm up by any stretch.
Yeah.
That's for your first fight at featherweight. Man, featherweight. The thing is, we talk about 155 being so good. The thing is that bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight are all stacked. Like, there's no easy fights in any of those divisions. Like, even cutting down to featherweight, there's no easy fights. If he wins this fight or he loses this fight, it's just hard fights on every side of him. Am I wrong here?
Yeah, I think they are. They are hard fights, and I think they're the fights that take a lot of miles or put a lot of miles on the body as well. Because if you fight Calvin Kattar, he'll take everything that you throw at him. Yep. Same with Max Holloway. Same with Korean Zombie, pretty much. Yair Rodriguez is going to throw something at you that's going to ring your bell. It's not like you're going to get wrestled hard and smothered for a period of time. Not at the moment, not with the guys at the top of that division. So you got some really tough fights. You're going to get banged up. I think this is the year for that division as well. I thought that bantamweights have really, really, really shone in the last couple of years, and I love to see it. Massive fan of the lighter weight classes because you see all the technical stuff. When you really break it down, you see how it's done like beautifully, which is why I also like women's mixed martial arts, because it's not always about raw power. You see the technique that's performed, and as a student of the game, it really illuminates that. But featherweights is a good one. You still get the knockouts, less so than you do at sort of light heavyweight, of course. But yeah, it's pretty grueling stuff down at featherweight. You're right.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, I'm going to change gears a little bit because I need to ask you this question. What has been your favorite fight to call ever? Like, just ever?
We can give you hints. We can give you hints if you.
Yeah, we've got one of our own.
Yeah, we actually picked for you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Let's go one each. Yeah. So I'm going to say Conor versus Ivan Bushinger in Cage Warriors, because it was such a pivotal moment, and now I can look back and see how big it was. But even then, we knew something special was happening, and because it was different, like the fans were jumping all over us. We got soaked in beer. And like Conor was there on the cage, and it was very dramatic. And I lost my shit on the mic. So that's one of them. Then you guys, let's share in a couple of these.
I mean, we both had literally the same one. It was the Anderson Silva and Michael Bisping bout. That is gangbusters, man. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was good. So when I was training, I think Anderson Silva was the guy that I would try, like, never going to get close, but I would try and emulate him on the bag. I loved his style. He came through Cage Rage over here in the UK, so he's got like a little affiliation to the UK. But at the same time, one of my coaches, Dennis and Sutherland, Mad Max, he went up to train with Michael Bisping years before. But I remember waiting in the gym for him to return. Him and another guy went up to the Wolf's Lair, and we were waiting to go like, how good is he? Like, is he really that good? And they're like, yeah, he's really that good. And you're like, oh man, this is awesome. Do you know what I mean? Because those guys are beating us up. We're not putting gloves on them. Then they're going up there. They're not landing gloves on those guys. So you're gauging things. So when I then sat down and I'm there with Dan Hardy next to me, all the UFC bosses were there. It was like a UFC Fight Pass pay-per-view. So it was a really big thing. They were trialing this thing. There was a lot of pressure on that, and to let us handle the broadcast. And then you've got Michael Bisping, like the highest achieving fighter from the UK, and the GOATs. It just, like, for me, it's just unbelievable, right? And then the fight itself, like that round 3 thing, like my producers actually said I did a pretty good job of handling that, because the fight wasn't over, and I saw Herb Dean hadn't called it. So the drama, man, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. So yeah, that was a good one. I'll come back with, it's hard to decipher anything from that Dublin card. I think they were all spectacular. So they blend into one, but let's, I mean, all right, it's such an obvious call, right? But all right, McGregor versus Brandao, you know, I'll go with
yes,
that.
Yes,
it's just so nuts, man. And
I
again,
love that fight.
I can't disassociate myself from how far he's gone since. Like that for me, and you know, this is only a little thing, but I was commentating on Conor's fights in 2010. So to then see his ascension and to where he's gotten to, like that's someone who I've had a conversation with. Do you know what I mean? And I've kind of had, like, my words are sort of scattered on his journey, which is like, that's really surreal. So so that was another one. So over to you guys. What else we got? I like this.
I need to comment on that because, you know, that was the first time, I was getting people over. I think it was on Fight Pass. He must have got some kind of cut from that because he literally was just getting so many people subscribing on Fight Pass on the same day, in fact, just to watch him fight. And right. I was like, yeah, guys, just watch this fight. I'm like, who's this? I'm like, this is Conor McGregor. It was in 2014. And I think after he won that fight, I'm like, if this guy can continue, he's going to just be an absolute star, man. Like, there's just absolutely no doubt in my mind. Do you ever think we'll get, do you think we'll ever get a star like Conor again? Like, as big as that? That's just ridiculous.
I don't think we do. I don't think we will, because the more this sport grows, more walls will come up. There will be less access. People will be protected a bit more. And yeah, things will just develop. It's just inevitable. He just came around at a time when, you know, it's just bonkers. Like, it's so crazy.
Mayweather.
It's so crazy. When I saw the Forbes list, it's a bit crass looking at the money side, but I saw the Forbes list and it was like the richest under 30s, and he had more money than Gareth Bale at that moment, apparently, right? Break that down. Like, Gareth Bale is an international footballer. He was maybe the skipper of the Welsh team at the time. I think he was playing in Spain.
Yeah.
And he'd gone there on a ridiculous contract. He would have been earning tens of thousands of pounds a week since he was like 15 years of age. He would have had very experienced money men managing his finances. And he would have had all kinds of deals over a 15-year period, let's say. Conor did it in 5 years. And I'm like, how do you do that? That's just unprecedented. And it's the genius, but you know, and it is the genius of the man, but timing does have to come into these things. Not luck, timing. And the way that the UFC allowed things to just be and give him the world tour. Like, how many world tours have we had since McGregor Aldo? Do you know what I mean? They rolled out the carpet. They know their shit, you know, and look what they've created. And that's it's phenomenal stuff. It really is.
Man, when this sport is at its best, when it's promoting the right narratives and you get the right people in the right spot, there's nothing better than this sport. This is the best sport on earth, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, like it or loathe it, don't like the narrative, do like the narratives, but it's, you know, it's all reflective of how we are as a society. All of this stuff's very present, you know, and if it's a very international community. I'm not saying that I like everything that is always said and done, but it's, you know, I'm 20 years older than a lot of these people. Do you know what I mean? And people communicate differently, they interact differently. This world is different now, but they're leveraging it for their gain and popularity and to get eyeballs. And hopefully, on balance, there's a positive spin, and then we can continue to progress.
Nice. But yeah, I want to ask this because we asked this to all our guests, more like our signature question. So obviously you got Dustin Poirier, he's got his signature hot sauce. You got Conor, he's got his, his proper whiskey. If there was a John Gooden signature brand, what would your signature brand be? Sorry to put you on the spot there, John.
Would it be like electrical equipment selling from Sainsbury? Something that's very related to you.
Oh dear, what's I think what this is a quote, and it's the wrong synonym because it's the better synonym, but the word escapes me. But one of my closest friends, my mate Dean, because of the way that I approach things, he used to just cut in and he'd go, "Determination" by John Gooden, as in referring to like an aftershave. He's like, if you had an aftershave, because of the way that you are, it would be called determination. It's just, I'm not very skilled. I'm a determined mofo. Like it was more referring to me on the football pitch, I think, just the fact that I would just run all day, just chasing a ball like a dog would chase a rabbit. And yeah, tenacity. I think it was tenacity. There you go. Tenacity by John Gooden. That even sounds better.
I'd wear that.
Thank you. I might have to turn this around pretty quick.
Man, absolutely love it. Hugely appreciate your time. We didn't even say how much time do we have with you? Are we just going to keep going for a bit?
We can go on. Yeah, I can give you another 15 minutes if you need it.
Man, all right, let's do it. All right, because we do have questions. Like, I'm genuinely curious about a lot of stuff from professionals. It doesn't always flow in conversations, so sometimes we don't get the chance.
I'm not your man. Did you say professionals?
Yeah. Get out of here.
Come on, you're too modest, John, man. Come on.
But how do you handle anxiety? Like, I get nervous recording this show. Like, before you came on, we were nervous. How do you do it? You got to go on for 8 hours. You got DC next to you. You got folks like that, Michael Bisping on another side of you. And you got millions of people watching. How do you handle anxiety? Because I would just faint.
Yeah, well, the anxiety probably isn't there in the moment. So being present helps, and having a really difficult job like that helps, because I don't really have a chance to think about it. It's go, 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 go. You're going from one thing to the other, turn and burn, it's just one thing after another. So so you've got to be completely focused, and then that's being present, right? So we all hear it now. If we've read the self-help books, if you look into the future, that's fear. And if you look into the past, that's regret. And they can be negative. So you've got to, if you're right here, right now, however, then you haven't got any of those things going on. You're just dealing with the work at that time. So that's what we try to get to, but that doesn't mean that the weeks leading up, you don't suddenly consider stuff. Like, I'll be entirely honest with you now, I've not called a live event for the UFC for 14 months. Like, I urge anyone to do their job that they do on a daily basis, take 2 weeks out, go back to it after 2 weeks and see if you do it as well as you did before you took your little vacation, holiday, or break. Like, I've been out for over a year. So that's coming into it. Am I going to find my flow? I'm not with Dan. So this will be with, I think, Bisping and Felder. I don't know. It's not been confirmed. I think I've worked with that partnership once before. And I think it can, from memory, I think it can be improved. That's on me. So yeah, I do think about those things because I want to perform to my best. But then I got to be kind to myself. Is it likely that I'm going to have my best ever performance after being out for 14 months? A part of me saying, I don't care. It's got to be. But then there's another part of me that's also got to be kind to myself so that I at least get to the start line. So there's a few things there. Time served. I think people reach out to me all the time about, I would love your job. I'd love to do what you do. How do I get into a similar path, whatever. And we spoke about it earlier. I started from the very bottom, from amateur fights. I worked on the Watford scene. I then went down to the London scene. And then I was down on the South Coast scene. And then I was with Cage Warriors, and then we started doing stuff, in a broader space. And you have to, like, if I couldn't have jumped from KO MMA and Watford Coliseum to the UFC, it just wouldn't have been right. I'd have sunk. And you have to take these steps. Even the big step to the UFC was a huge one, as I said. And I was super nervous about that. Super nervous. Like, here's one thing, that just things will happen that you're not used to, but now I am. So it was London, it was the O2, and the fans were amazing because and I think because they saw Dan. Dan was there and he's a legend, but I'm stood beside him. I'm like on his coattails, right? So on a UFC broadcast, you do your prelims and then it's a real quick turnaround. You literally put your jacket on, then you spin around, you take your headphones off, you put your in-ear monitors in, you grab a microphone, then you talk to a camera right there with the lights on, and that's when you open up the main card. As I turned around, there were about 100 people, all with their phones out, with like the little light on. And I'm like, you know, when you're talking about being present, because I'm taking instructions in my ear, right. Main card open. Okay. You know, hello and welcome to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. All right, what's my name again? Yeah, I'm John Gooden. And then as I've turned around, there's this sea of twinkly lights. And I'm like, oh shit. And I was more worried about those guys than the camera, because they were, I'll never forget it. They're like, go on, Dan, go on, John, have a good one, son. Because the UFC fans know the product so well. So they know every beat, you know, so they could follow what was coming up. And it was like, oh shit, it really like took me aback. But it was a positive thing. It was just a bit like, oh my God, what the F is going on? And then I'm like, okay, focus back, you know, got a job to do. So you have those things. So it's important to go step by step. Don't try and race too fast, because you'll crash and burn. And the only thing I can say is, look, I might not be the best. I'm clearly not the worst. And whatever people might say about me and what I am or I'm not doing, I'm still here. I still have my seat. I'm still with the UFC. I'm grateful for it. I feel like I've earned my position and I work hard. A lot of the stuff you got, I do more stuff that you guys don't see than what you see I do see, and which I'm absolutely fine with, by the way. I don't do it to be seen. I do it to add value. But yeah, don't get ahead of ourselves and take your time, you know, take the lessons along the way.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. But yeah, I mean, in terms of UK MMA, what do you think of how it's perceived here? I mean, obviously, there's a long ways to go. How long do you think we'll get to the point where boxing isn't the biggest combat sport in the UK anymore and it's MMA?
I don't know. We need some work. We do need some work, and it's not the UFC's work. No.
We're fighting a 200, 300-year-old dynasty, you know? Yeah.
It's stuff that needs to go on kind of outside the UFC. The coverage of the UFC, I think, needs to improve quite a bit. We just need some good fortune. You know, I think here's something that I've found myself talking about quite a lot recently. How many other sports do you know that grow top down? So if you think about football, it's a grassroots movement and sport. And you've got things like Sport for England, and you've got all these associations and organizations that are getting kids involved when they're young. They're developing them, harnessing that talent, bringing everyone in, boys and girls alike. And then they go up, and there's weekend warriors, Saturday, Sunday football, all the way up, right? And if a number of Premier League teams didn't succeed, we still have grassroots football. There's not really any of that here in the UK. We haven't got a movement that are pushing kids into martial arts, that, you know, in any way, shape or form, really. It's not part of a curriculum. So it's a challenge. And we're not recognised by Sport for England that I know of. I know that the IMAF guys and the UK MMAF and the EMMAF guys are all doing wonderful work, and they're still young. They're still trying their hardest, like banging on the door. Can you please listen to us? So it's the UFC are doing all of this work. Like, they have to keep succeeding, and they're helping fund things. And they're letting some of their expertise be shared over here, and drug testing programs and this. And that's the stuff that they don't get a lot of credit for. And it's not just the UK they're doing that for. They're doing that everywhere outside of the US. From, like, I'm not that close to the guys in Vegas, but this is what I see. It's expensive, it's tight, it takes a lot of resources to do these sorts of things. And it's challenging, you know, banging on doors when they're not opening is hard work. So we need a few more we need some money men. We need some people with political power, I think, to get behind it. We did have people in Harley Street that were helping us, probably still are, helping improve the safety of things, because there is that to it. I think there are different aspects of certainly martial arts in general. Doesn't have to be all about concussive blows. So it will take a while. It's a polarizing sport as well. So there is that. And the world is getting more and more tuned into long-term effects, like heading the ball in football. There are people calling for that to be ruled out. Like, what chance have we got if they start removing that from the beautiful game? So we'll see. But we've got a ways to go, which is also exciting, right? Because people like us, we're maybe not quite the forefathers, but we're still early generations in this. We're maybe the second generation of people coming through, helping to try and spread the good word, move the sport along. And we just got to keep playing away at the honest aspects of all of this.
No, I completely agree. It's a martial arts based sport. It is the coolest sport when it's running on all cylinders. And you know what? Credit where credit is due. BT Sport here in the UK has done an amazing job. They've really put their best foot forward in promoting the UFC, right? Yeah,
they're trying. I think their digital team do a wonderful job. They got some really good people involved now as well. But I don't know but the needle hasn't moved in years. Like, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know. That's why I said, I think it takes pressure from everywhere, from everywhere. And maybe, I don't know, free to wear stuff, like one day, and I don't know. I just don't know what it is. But I don't feel like we've really grown a great deal. And we need, the pandemic hasn't helped because we haven't had boots on the ground for so long, and you need a presence, because if people are channel hopping and it's always abroad, then they just don't feel like they're not going to connect to it the same way that if they constantly see droves of people wearing T-shirts descending on Wembley, the Echo, the what is it? Is it the MEN now? I don't even know what these places, but Birmingham, Manchester, like all of these places, Glasgow, let's go Cardiff, let's Belfast, we need that. That's how we're gonna push on, and then the coverage will then be a multiplier to that.
Yeah, I think it eventually will come, but it's just a slow process. Arguably, I think when it was really popping off is when the golden era of McGregor, 2016 to 2018. We're just hoping for another moment like that. But yeah, look, John, we really appreciate you coming on the show. I thought you were an amazing guest. But yeah, we're going to give you the spotlight, like final words. Where can the guests find you? Plug anything you like to do.
Right. Well, we got 5 minutes left. Here we go. So I've been creating quite a bit of stuff for UFC Fight Pass, mostly my Euro Watch series. So every event, I put a spotlight on a European fighter. This week is Umar Nurmagomedov and Negumereanu. I always stumble on that one. So that's on UFC Fight Pass on their socials, on UFC Fight Pass itself. I've got more stuff coming to UFC Fight Pass. I've also got my own channel, John Gooden UK. That's what I am on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Got the Facebook thing as well. Always got stuff coming out. It's in drips and drabs, but bear with me. If you stick with me, I'll get you something. How to fix a dishwasher, maybe some editing tips, maybe how to wire a plug soon, and triathlon stuff as well. That's a world that I'm still connected to. Got some news coming on that front in the next couple of months as well. So here we go. Follow along. Let's see on my journey to my brown belt as well in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So see how far I get with that one.
Thank you so much, John. We're going to put all the links, in the video in the bio.
Appreciate it.
Anything you'd like to do, we'll help you. But thank you so much, John, for your time.
Gents, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.